Well, the simplest answer is because people have cooperated. We have been very, very fortunate that our students and faculty and staff have agreed that wearing masks inside is a good idea. And so almost everybody does. There's always a few exceptions, but I mean, almost everyone does. And that has made an enormous difference in terms of the spread of disease on campus. It's helped with flu too. We had a really good flu season last year, probably for the same reason. And so last week we did random testing in 700 and some individuals, and we had 1% positivity, about 7 out of 700, which is way lower than the community. And I think a lot of that is because people here wear masks. They're reasonable about social distancing inside of buildings. I think people wash their hands more than they used to, and people have just been practicing good habits to try to stay safe and to try to protect each other. If you go out in the community, you don't see that as much, right? You go to the grocery store, and very few people are wearing masks. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, hopefully the students and faculty can take what they've been implemented here out into the community, like you said, grocery stores or different schools or baseball game or whatever. That's a great idea. So my next question is, besides COVID, what are some big challenges you come across here at UToledo?
Well, so there are many. We are getting ready for our accreditation site visit. So universities go through a lot of different accreditation processes. Some are specific to schools or programs, but there's one through the Higher Learning Commission, which is for the entire institution. And it has not occurred for 5 years. They do this in 5 or 10-year intervals, depending on what cycle you're in. And it's our turn. So November of this year, next month, we will host a visit from 6 site visitors from the Higher Learning Commission. And they'll spend 2 days here looking at many different aspects of our program, and we're confident that we will be reaccredited. This is a very, very big deal. So that is something that right now we're spending a tremendous amount of time on.
To prep.
Absolutely, yeah. The submissions are all due next Monday, and so people this week are quite busy putting all the final paperwork together and getting ready to send it in Monday. We also are getting ready to begin our strategic planning process. So the last strategic plan the university did was a 5-year plan, and this is the 5th year. So it will end after this year, and we'll need to have another plan to follow it. And it can take 6 months to a year for a university to put a new plan together. So this is the time when we begin. And it's a big deal because we try to get a lot of different people involved. We have faculty, staff, students, donors, people in the community, every combination of individuals you can imagine participating in helping us, give their ideas and their input as to what the university's next strategic plan should look like.
So do you have anything big that you specifically want to add to that?
Oh, there are a lot of things. For starters, we're thinking about how long the plan will be. Will it really be another 5-year plan, or maybe we do a 3-year plan? A lot of universities have decided that no one has a crystal ball that's good enough to go out 5 years, but maybe we've got a 3-year crystal ball. Absolutely, the world is changing. That's right, Lauren. And I think it's critical for us to be reasonable about our time frame and understanding what makes the most sense. But the strategic plan, by definition, will cover all the bases. So there'll be information in it about our research programs and how we wish to grow those. There'll be plans in there around our course offerings and what sorts of things are we going to double down on, things were really good, maybe what things don't we need to offer anymore because they're not so popular anymore. We'll have a lot of things in there around diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's always a big part of our agenda, so that'll be in the strategic plan. There'll be something that applies to everyone really in this plan, And the best part is that it will be created as a result of really broad interaction with the campus. There'll be a lot of input from many different people.
That's really important to us too, you know what I mean? As instead of just from the admin side, as people in the campus or in the community, that's really important that you guys will take the feedback and share it with each other. I really appreciate that. What are some things that you're proud of that you've been a part of here at UToledo or just in general?
Well, so I'm proud about a lot of things in this past year. We graduated 4,640 students in the spring, which is the largest graduation class the university has had in 23 years. And part of the reason the group was so big is because our graduation rate is at an all-time high. It has been creeping up for the last several years, and it is getting better and better. So we're not just recruiting students here, we're getting them out of here with degrees, right, which is the whole idea. I'm also very proud about the fact that our underrepresented minority achievement gaps are getting smaller. So we measure the difference in performance between underrepresented minorities and the rest of the population, and there shouldn't be a difference, but there is. But I'm happy to say the difference is getting smaller, so that means we're going in the right direction. We've still got more work to do, but we're proud of that.
I'm sure that'll be in the strategic planning, right?
Oh, you bet. Yeah, we have to keep pushing on that. I'm proud about our research numbers. We were up 18% last year, and in a tough year during COVID. I'm proud of the fact that we had good numbers of COVID cases on campus that were low last year and so far have been low this year as well. I'm proud about the fact that our hospital stopped losing money and is now making money and is no longer a drain on the university. So we had a good year, despite all the obstacles.
That's awesome. So two big things for us students. What are the plans for the parking garages, and then what are the plans for Carter Hall?
Well, so the parking garages have been taken down, and there has been all kinds of concern raised about that. And I will be the first person to admit that it would have been nice to give everybody more advance warning. But you have to think about this from my perspective. So the university learned 5 years ago that these garages needed to be taken down for safety reasons. And the university sometimes aren't real quick to act, and so time went by and nothing was done. And I was getting complaints from people who parked in those garages that there were pieces of concrete falling out of the ceiling and landing on people's cars. And I think many of you watched the news and saw a building collapse in Miami not so long ago. There was a similar story where they had been told years earlier that the thing needed to go and nobody did anything about it. And so from my perspective, if I had to choose between preventing students from being in some catastrophic accident and people being mad about having to walk farther to park, I would pick the second choice all day long. Now I understand that it creates some problems and we're trying to work through those things and it's not real pretty, but safety was the only thing that I was thinking about. Now what I'll tell you is that in the aftermath of those garages coming down, we're working just as fast to put new parking lots in. So if you go over to where the east garage was located near Bominati, you'll see that they're about ready to start paving a lot. And we're hopeful that by Thanksgiving there'll be a surface lot there, and that combined lot with the lot adjacent to it, I think will take 550 cars or something like that. So that'll
really similar to what the parking garages were?
No, it's less than what the parking garage was, but it's a lot more than we have today. And the same story is true in the spring of next year. We'll have a surface lot put in place where the east garage had been over across the street from McMaster Hall. And again, it's not as big as the garage, but it's space that we don't have today. And when we add all of those spaces up, it's more than we have students. Okay, so there's plenty of parking. The problem is it's just not always in the right place. And so now we're busy trying to figure out, okay, how can we get more scooters? How can we get more bike shares? How can we get better routes for our buses? All of those kinds of things have to be amplified as well, because unfortunately everybody can't park exactly where they want to. People who have disabilities or problems getting around, that's no issue. I mean, we're able to find spaces for them for sure, but across the board, not everybody can park on the North Campus right by their building. You know, it just logistically isn't possible. Some people are going to have a little walk.
No, I agree. Yeah, especially since there's no on the inside. You know what I mean? They're kind of all on the outside of
Yep.
campus, it feels like.
Yeah, the center of campus
Obviously.
deliberately is pretty, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, no one here will remember because it was way too long ago, but the Centennial Mall used to be a giant parking lot. That whole area out there was a parking lot. Ugly, but people loved the fact that it was right in the center of campus. It was right by their buildings. And so someone years ago made the choice that they wanted to beautify the campus, and we all love that area. We were out there today, right, for the pep rally, but there's no parking there anymore, right? It's all a park.
No, I mean, I get it. I was curious. And what about the plans for Carter?
Carter Hall is going to be demolished this fall. It served us nicely last year as our COVID dorm. Thank goodness we did not have anywhere near as many students in there as we feared we would, but there were some, and it did a good job. But that building was put up in the 60s and served us real well for decades. I'm sure people had a lot of fun in that building. It was used fully. And it looks better from the outside than it does from the inside. If you've ever been in there, it's not great. And so it's time for us to get rid of those kinds of buildings and replace them with the kinds of housing that students are looking for today. I mean, students would rather live in, you know, more apartment style rooms than they would in cinder block dorms.
No, I get it. And I think it also...
So to clarify, your future plans for Carter Hall is to replace it with a new dorm style building? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's a possibility. I mean, the first step is to demolish it and get the site cleared. I think the next step is, you know, we're doing a real thorough analysis right now of demand for student housing, and you know, how many students want to live on campus, how many do we think we could attract to campus, and then once we have a pretty good feel for that number, then we figure out, okay, is this a matter of refurbishing other dorms, maybe building a new dorm, right? There's several different ways that could go.
I think it was also helpful, I know it was helpful during COVID, but a few years ago during parks, when they redid parks, all the freshmen were in Carter.
That's about 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, four or 5 years ago.
Because
Right?
I'm not a traditional college student.
Yeah.
I'm here longer than I should be.
No,
but yes.
Carter Hall was a utility hitter. Yeah, it did a great job filling in for needs. Yeah.
Awesome. So our professor actually wanted to ask this question. Do you think we will make it to Christmas this semester in person?
Oh, very definitely. So, I mean, you know, I mentioned earlier the numbers on campus. You know, we're 1% positivity for our asymptomatic screening, and I was looking at some news stories from across Ohio this morning in preparation for our COVID task force call, which took place at 8:15, and the health department in Ohio is carefully tracking numbers of new cases and numbers of hospitalizations, and they feel pretty confident that the number has peaked and is really starting to come down now. The trend over the last 4 weeks has been downward, and the number of people being vaccinated is going up. A lot of people have also had the disease, in addition to those who are vaccinated. And so things seem to be going in a pretty good direction. I think as long as we continue wearing masks and more people get vaccinated, we vaccinated 250 people last week. And so we're just going to keep doing that and encouraging people to be vaccinated, and we feel pretty good about it.
That's excellent.
Just to add on to that, I actually spoke with Dr. Amy Thompson not that long ago in terms of the vaccination process, since the university is requiring the vaccine now. And what she told me was that the only data and numbers we have is from the students that actually uploaded their vaccine card via the vaccine incentive program. And I guess there was like a commotion of students either not doing it or forgetting to do that step. I just want to hear your perspective in regards to the vaccine incentive program and if students are actually uploading their cards so we can get an accurate count of students who have been vaccinated on campus.
Sure. So our IT department did a great job putting together a vaccine registry, and it's been up now for about 6 weeks. So it hasn't been there for a long time, but it's been up there for about 6 weeks, and you can upload and enter your card. There, you can enter other data about vaccinations in that process as well, but certainly for your COVID you can. And you know, early on the numbers were very poor. Not many people had done it, and so we have been going out and we have been doing everything we can to convince people to do this, because there are a lot more people vaccinated than who have actually entered their data in. So we're seeing it get better and better. This morning, you know, we were up around 47 or 48%, and that's out of about 23,000, because we're counting, you know, the 17,000 students and about 6,000 faculty and staff, right?
Does that include online students too?
Well, it would include commuters, certainly, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And many of our students, of course, are commuters. So yeah, there's a large number of commuters in that category.
I am.
Yeah, and so I don't think that 47% is accurate. I think it's considerably higher than that. There are a couple populations where we know there are a lot of people who just haven't uploaded their card. So we're trying to think of some ways where we can sort of electronically bug people, you know, to, you know, go in and, you know, please, you know, we're going to keep sending you this message every single day 5 times until you upload your data, and then we'll stop sending you the message, because we really would like to know. But the number is going up, and it was 29% a couple weeks ago, and today it was 47%. So people are doing it. It's just been a little slow. Everybody's busy, and I guess it's not always the first priority to go to the computer and upload data.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. How will implementing the new budget spending model, RCM, improve finances here at UToledo?
So, you know, RCM is a model for how budgets are built. Okay, so RCM doesn't, in and of itself, bring any new money to the university. What it is a planning tool and a way for the deans and the other administrative leaders on campus to sort of have an opportunity to take control of their own budget and do things to make their area successful. And so what's nice is if you're a dean and your college is able to generate a profit, you can take that money and reinvest it back in your own school. You can hire more people, you can purchase or modernize equipment or facilities, you can do what you need to for your school. It's not going to be captured by anybody and used for something, you know, by the central administration. And so at universities where this has been done, this tool has incentivized people to do really creative things, to grow enrollment and to grow research and to be very wise with how they spend their money. It's almost like, you know, you manage your own budget and you're going to do a real good job because it's your money. If you run out, you're out, right? So this tends to be a great tool and has worked at many universities. But in and of itself, it doesn't generate funds. It's just a model for creating a budget.
That's understandable, yeah. Another question, I guess, in the whole money thing, are tuition costs staying the same, or are they raising in the next couple of years, or how is that going to work?
There's been no decision to raise tuition at this point. As a matter of fact, we haven't even talked about it recently since the budget was passed by the board in June. We're still going to follow the cohort model where students come in and their tuition is fixed during the time that they're here. I think that's a really good model, so it helps students, you know what their own situation is going to be throughout their education. You know, every year there's a conversation about tuition. It is not always as simple as just us talking about it. All the presidents in the state talk about it. The Ohio Department of Higher Education talks about it. There's a very broad conversation, and you'll see that a lot of universities in Ohio tend to do something very similar when it comes to tuition. You know, so we don't make the decision in a vacuum. You know, obviously the goal is always to try to keep tuition low. Our tuition is pretty good here if you think about it. I mean, for in-state, around 11,000, but then that's usually discounted because so many students receive scholarships for one reason or
I was
another.
gonna ask about that. What's the scholarship rate looking like, especially during COVID and all that?
Well, our scholarship rate is high. You know, when I first got here, I was really surprised to see, on average, the amount of support every student is given, whether it's need-based or merit-based or both. So I think our cost of attendance, I know a lot of students may not think so, but if you compare us to other schools, is not that bad. We have to be careful around housing costs. Those can creep up on you. We have to be careful about fees because those can add up, and I'm not a big fan of fees, so we're always looking for ways to keep those modest. And you know, we're also looking to find ways to help students who really need it. So students need to have help filling out FAFSA forms. You know, if they qualify, if their family's Pell eligible, we want to get those students in the system so that they can get that grant. That's $6,000 a year from the federal government that they can receive from a Pell Grant. You know, those kinds of things go a long way.
That's wonderful. What are any huge events or campus updates you're looking forward to?
Oh, there's a lot going on. Well, just this week, you know, we have Rocket Week with the city, which is a sort of a joint celebration of our relationship with the city. We've got homecoming all week. We've got a big game against the NIU Huskies at noon on Saturday. We've got a parade on campus and in Old Orchard on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. My investiture is at 10 o'clock on Friday, sort of almost like a graduation ceremony. It's a very formal ceremony. We have an alumni gala on Friday night where we'll be welcoming back alumni and also honoring 16 former grads who have done really neat things with their lives. So that's all coming up here in the next week or so. Tonight we have our 32nd annual Diamante Awards where we celebrate Latinx culture and raise money for scholarships for those students. And then we're already starting to plan for next year's, our 150th anniversary as a university. We call it our sesquicentennial celebration, which is going to be a whole year of celebrating the university's long history.
That's going to be exciting.
Very much so.
I think my last question is just, do you have anything else to add? Is there anything we're missing? Oh, we already talked about that one. Do you have anything else to add? Like, is there anything that we should?
No, you covered the bases really well. The two of you are majors in media communications.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Has been a good program, a good experience for you?
I actually have one more follow-up question going back to what you said about Carter Hall. It's mostly about your plans for Scott Park, because I know there's been talks about the university to try to sell it. We currently have baseball and softball over here, and there's been talks about possibly moving that onto campus. I just want to hear your view about how soon those changes would be, or what's your plans about regarding that.
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. So the university has been trying to figure out what to do about the Scott Park campus for a long time. It's a very, very underutilized area. It's 170 acres. There are buildings on that campus that have been locked up for a long period of time. A lot of storage is taking place there for some engineering programs. So the only thing we really use the campus for, as you pointed out, is for baseball and softball, and then we have an athletics office there for baseball and softball, and that's a nice facility. So we have been in talks for some time. Those talks have heated up again with a couple parties, potentially interested in taking the campus over, and I think that's going to happen. But in those conversations, we have made it clear that we wish to keep the portion of the campus for our use where the baseball and the softball is, so that we don't lose that. And so most of the conversations we're having focus around us, at least for 10 years, being able to keep baseball and softball where they are, so that we maybe never have to move them, but certainly not anytime soon have to make any decisions about where we would put those two sports. But it would be to our advantage to hand that over to a party that can make good use of it. That land is not being used. It's right in the center of Toledo. All kinds of things could be done there. Vacant buildings always make me nervous. There's nothing good about vacant buildings. So if we can find a partner, we'd be better off.
But yes, we're both media communication students.
Good.
Maybe
Good.